Did you know that there was once an Indonesian woman that was so badass and so admired that even Elizabeth I of England had to write a letter just for a peaceful negotiation with her? Many people regard that 1596 was the start of Indonesian colonization by the Dutch, and that is marked by the landing of Cornelis de Houtman in the shores of Banten. Cornelis de Houtman landed on the shores of Banten on that year, and because of that, he proved that the monopoly that the Portuguese had on the spice trade was able to be contended. But did you know that Cornelis de Houtman was actually slayed by the first female admiral in the world? And today we're going to be talking about Kamala Hayati. My green screen now moves. Kamala Hayati was born in Aceh on the 1st of January 1550, making her a Capricorn queen. And she was born within the court of the Acehni Sultanate. It's believed that her father was also the first admiral of the Aceh Sultan. And so that's why she grew up with a good education within the confines of the Acehni's court. And she also knew a lot about the sea, about the life of a sailor because of her parents and her grandparents. In 1585, she was chosen to be an admiral in the Sultanese Aceh Navy, which made her not only the first female admiral in Indonesia, but the first female admiral in the world. What's more badass about that is that she had a vessel or a ship that she was captain of, and she named it the Inong Balai, and that translates to widowed women. Why? Because the crew of that vessel were literally widowed women. These women were usually widowed because their husbands died during battle, whether it be in the Navy or in the Army. So Kamala Hayati was a woman for women, and especially during that time where she saw these women who were down on their luck, who would have had no other choice or no other life, and gave them opportunity to work, which is something very, very rare at that time. And as sailors, super rare. In 1599, Cornelis de Houtman actually fled from Banten to Aceh because he had insulted the Sultanate of Banten. And the Sultanate of Aceh, they were like, yeah, I mean, you can come here, but just don't insult us. Don't do anything rude. And what did this white man do? He insulted the Sultan. So the Battle of Aceh breaks. There's lots of casualties on both sides. And eventually, Kamala Hayati was like, all right, dude, let's do a one-on-one. Let's do a duel. So the duel happens on the deck of Cornelis de Houtman's ship. Cornelis de Houtman has chosen a sword as his weapon, and Kamala Hayati chooses a rencong. A rencong is a traditional blade, and they fight, and she slays the house down, boots, literally, because Cornelis de Houtman is dead. Kamala Hayati's legacy continues to live on, and she starts getting this incredible reputation that she is not a woman to mess with. She is an admiral, and she has at one point 2,000 people that are employed within her fleet. 2,000 people. Her reputation as being this badass bitch was spread so far and wide that it reached the shores of England. And at this time, England as an empire had an incredible navy, and it was all under Elizabeth I. You know, that Elizabeth. The English were so scared to enter the Strait of Malacca. They needed to have a written letter from Elizabeth I so that they can get a trade route from Malacca to Java. And after that mission was successful, Elizabeth was so impressed that they actually gave James Lancaster, who led the expedition, a knighthood. Imagine being so badass that people who decide to have peace with you gets a knighthood. Hayati died in battle in 1606. She died during combat while defending Aceh from, you guessed it, Portuguese, more colonizers. In 2017, the president finally commemorated her as a national heroine, and it's about damn time. Kamala Hayati, you will always be the baddest bitch of them all. Imagine being so iconic that you founded the oldest and largest women's organization in Indonesia, and you continue to inspire educators, students, and even future content creators. Hi, I'm Alma, and I'm telling the stories of the women on the Indonesian National Registries list. This episode's leading lady is called Siti Walidah. She was born on 3rd January 1872, the daughter of a batik merchant in Kauman, Yogyakarta. As a young girl, she wasn't able to get formal education, but she did get valuable education in regards to the values of Islamic and religious studies. So she would have learned how to read Arabic and the comprehension of the Quran, as well as other religious studies. In 1889, she married a man called Muhammad Darwis, or better known as Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan. Therefore, Siti Walidah was better known as Nyai Ahmad Dahlan. In 1914, Nyai Ahmad Dahlan founded a small women's study group she called Sopo Tresno, or translated, it was called Those Who Love. So this group focused on teaching religious studies, so the comprehension of the Quran, as well as some other focused studies on empowerment and education. At first, this group, or the study group, was attended by educated women in the Kauman area. But then, because Kauman is known for their batik production, eventually some batik workers also attended. And batik is interesting because it's primarily a woman's activity. Usually it was a woman who would do all of the hand drawing on the fabric, and then eventually from batik workers, a lot of the young girls would also attend Sopo Tresno. So these Sopo Tresno sessions were also supervised by Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan, who kind of looked over the Quranic comprehensions. And Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan was also a believer in women's empowerment. In 1913, just a year after the founding of Muhammadiyah, he encouraged young women in Kauman to pursue education equal to that of men. On 19th May 1917, Sopo Tresno officially changed its name to Aisyah. And in 1922, Aisyah was officially inducted, or officially a part of the bigger Muhammadiyah organization. Nyai Ahmad Dahlan pioneered the Aisyah framework of Empat Catur Pusat, or the 4 educational pillars. And basically, these 4 pillars integrated the 4 components of education. So the education within the family, education within the school environment, education within society, and education within the places of worship. Basically, making education accessible for girls wherever they are and wherever they choose to commit themselves. Nyai Ahmad Dahlan was also recorded to be a fashion influencer, darling. It was reported that the Aisyah organization was one of the first to pursue Muslim women to wear the hijab. And in an effort to do that, in an effort to market the hijab, they marketed along with them a garment called the Songket Kauman. Songket Kauman was actually not a songket at all, or what we know as a songket, that is a weaved fabric. It was actually a piece of garment that was very meticulously embroidered. And unfortunately, the Songket Kauman has been lost. We don't see a lot of it anymore in present day. But the Songket Kauman, because of the marketing along with hijab with the Aisyah movement, it was known as the Kudung Aisyah. And you can still see pictures of it, and especially in the iconic way we identify Nyai Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan, this is what the Kudung Aisyah looked like. So you can see the embroidery here, as well as the particular way these girls wore their hijab, wore their kerudung. In 1926, only 3 years after the death of Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan, Nyai Ahmad Dahlan actually led the 15th annual Muhammadiyah conference. And this was the first time ever that a woman led a conference, a national conference this big. And it was something that no Indonesian woman had ever done before. It wasn't always smooth sailing for Nyai Ahmad Dahlan and her work to create a legitimate organization for Aishah. Remember, this is the time where a lot of people didn't believe in education for young girls. They thought if a woman became too educated for her own good, she would not become a good wife. She would not be able to submit herself to her husband or her family. So there was a lot of pushback against the traditional way society viewed women and education for women in general. And this heroic story and struggle of Nyai Ahmad Dahlan to create accessible education also hits pretty personal to me, because my own grandmother was very, very active in the Aishah movement, to the point where she helped create a preschool and a kindergarten in her village, and it was under the Aishah banner. It was an Aishah kindergarten. And my grandmother really believed in the values of education that it was passed down to my father, who became the first generation PhD in his family, and then eventually to me with the content that I make. So it just goes to show that the struggles as well as the battles that you fight for, the work that you do in this lifetime, may ripple and may go on in generations and generations in the future that you might not see. Siti Walidah, or Nyai Ahmad Dahlan, was indicted into the National Heroes Registry in 1971, 25 years after her death in 1946. Which other women's stories would you like to hear about next?